Welcome. Let's think outside the box.org. Listen, the Reverend Jesse Jackson used to say that I was born in the slums, but the slums were not born in me. So my appeal to you today, even as you begin to have a rendezvous in terms of dreams of destiny, of what you are supposed to be, in terms of initiating or igniting or perhaps lighting, call it acquire the fire of what dreams and destiny that God has embedded in you. I want you to understand that regardless of whatever challenge you may be going through, there is more than enough ability for you to explore and to conquer. There is no better endeavor than a man to use his unconscious desire or behavior to change their own ability in order to become better. As I said, castigators and people who try to depress you or pull you down will be there. But listen, those are meant to make you better. It's not a ripe mango. It's mostly a ripe mango that is already stoned. Raw mangoes in most cases are not stoned. So you have to focus in life and have that tenacity and resilience to make sure that you conquer the challenges that may be befalling before you. So I want to speak to your soul and heart that God has the ability to take you to greater horizons. We're going to go through most of this series of what we call think outside the box and throw the box away. One of the things that the Lord put in my heart yesterday was to come up with a memorandum or some kind of book, memorabilia if you like, some kind of book that discusses the generals, the great generals, legal generals of this country, people who have had an impact in terms of legal jurisprudence. And we are debating on coming up with some of those novel names, and we want to believe that you will be impressed by some of the things that they have been doing through the period of years. And this is not going to be influenced by anything. It's a question of what they have done in terms of adding value to society, in terms of jurisprudence. So look out for that book called Rebels of Jurisprudence, where we're going to have what they call a Hall of Fame in terms of the legal jurisprudence. People who I believe have changed the discourse in terms of jurisprudence. I could mention a few names, but I don't want to bias you. I don't want to let the cat out of the box. But in this series, for example, about this particular book that we're talking about, in this book we're going to analyze some of the foremost authorities in terms of legal jurisprudence who have described what they call their myriad in terms of experiences covering a spectrum of subjects in frightening or what they call amiable styles, probably because they were self-made or self-taught or made in Uganda for that purpose, and they are talented, and therefore their mark on this country has actually been admired, and therefore acts as a motivation to many other people. So interestingly, we can also have comparisons with other people like Lord Denning, Lord Atkins, Oliver Wendell Holmes, who is perhaps celebrated to be one of the wisest lawyers in terms of being a legal realist. We have people like Alan Dershowitz, who was actually lecturing in Harvard Law School. We've got people like Johnny Cochran. Some of you may remember him in the trial of the century, where he argued in terms of the O.J. Simpson case. And we've got other people who have actually been able to make a mark in terms of jurisprudence in this country. So in this rebels jurisprudence, in terms of legal jurisprudence, rebel lawyers, we are not using that word connotatively or denotatively. We're using it in terms of trying to comprehend and appreciate what they are, how much value they have added to society in terms of affecting your day-to-day life. You'll be amazed of some of the best things that come out of unsung heroes of this country. So watch out for that in terms of that very soon. We will highlight some of the judges, lawyers, legal professionals who have actually helped to bring about changes in the judicial system according to their work. So some people who have actually written books and have actually been muzzled or been stifled by political institutions, and yet they have a mark. So maybe we'll discuss some of you, and when you look that, the idea is to borrow some of the ideas that the talents that God has given unto you, so we can share them with a bigger diaspora in terms of the world, so that the world can actually learn from you. You may find yourself a rebel of sorts with actually knowing whether or not you're a rebel. So in terms of these discourses that we tend to do, we will discuss, in terms, if I go back to some of the series, season 5 of Let's Think Outside the Box, we'll go through the works in terms of the sui generis law app that many of you are probably aware. which has everything you'll ever need in law. You go to Harvard Law School, you go to Yale Law School, you go to school, name it, you will not find the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Even the kind of calendar, the QR code calendar that we have, where we're gonna give them to you as gifts. You just, use your smart gadget and you get every book, all the websites, even the business classes that we have. And we have also calendars. Every single day we have a quotation, a legal quotation, every single day for 365 days. Think about that. And these are different quotations from different people. So be aware that all our intentions are good. We're intended to do good, not to harm. I know there are those who may not understand and I think we're being braggadocious, but the intention is not to be braggadocious. The intention is to help you focus so that you can focus and you know that tomorrow can change as long as you focus on your dream and your inspiration. So listen, today I want to discuss something very small in respect to one of the books. I wouldn't want to go through the Sui Generis Law app because I know many of you know what the Sui Generis Law app is, but when you go to Play Store or when you go to Google, you can simply find it and put it on your phone. One of the books that, of course, that has really greatly changed the minds of people is the one that called Treatise to Marleted Friend, The Attorney at Law, where we discuss incredible things by different authors and by different people, things that are supposed to inspire you. Then, of course, we've got one of the oldest books in the history of Uganda, which is a 100-year-old book, The History of Busoga, where we discuss issues to do with how fine pencils in God's hand, the people of Busoga. Then we've got other books that we're going to discuss with you on a day-to-day basis that have to do with, for example, books like, just 1 minute as I go through, Ubuntu Ulamadalu as an extra textual aid statutory interpretation tool. And interestingly, this is the first comprehensive book to address the relationship between Ubuntu Bulamu and the law. It also provides for what they call the most relevant critical information on the use of Ubuntu Bulamu by the judiciary, for example. So Ubuntu Bulamu, although is an ideal and a value that is actually rooted in African culture, its purchase as far as performative ethics and human goes, it actually goes to the root of the African culture and right. And therefore, we encourage today activities. So Ubuntu Bulamu, basically, we would intend to demonstrate the irony in terms of the absence of these Ubuntu Bulamu in terms of societies today, because of of course, the colonial legacy, the fact that most of the laws are actually incepted or they are co-opted by the Order in Council, stuff like the Inception Clause, and therefore we are making a justification, call it an African renaissance of sorts, where we're trying to advocate for people to go back to the things that we believe if we are nurtured and grown rather than grafted, we can be able to progress in a much more proactive way. So we will discuss the book, and we may even see just quotations from things like people like Locke Macleay. Listen to what Macleay said in address to the British Parliament on 2nd February 1835. He said, "I have traveled across the length and the breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth have I seen in his country, such high moral values, peoples of such high caliber. I do not think that we could ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose," remember he's saying this to the British Parliament, "I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture, for if the African think that what is English and foreign is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native, their culture, and they will become what we want them to be, a truly dominated nation." Listen, whether talk about some kind of neo-colonialism of sorts, that's something we're going to debate. We've got, like I said, about 35 books that we're going to discuss for you one by one. So we're going to demystify the law. So my friends, my brethren, welcome to Let's Think Outside the Box.org. God bless you and be part of the Dream Team.